So I hope you can see this very clearly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the first question? Can somebody read the first question for me?
The Constitution of India is
Hmm. The Constitution of India is rigid, flexible, or very flexible, or partly rigid and partly flexible. So we discussed it in a very recent class, right? Oh my gosh. Okay. So whether the rigidity or flexibility of a constitution is dependent on which thing? It is dependent. It depends on the amendment procedure.
yes,
Yes or no? If
yes.
we can amend the constitution easily, మనం constitution ని ఈజీగా amend చేయగలిగితే it is known as flexible constitution. If amending the constitution is very difficult, it is known as rigid. A very good example of rigid is USA. So how about Indian constitution? Indian constitution is partly rigid and
And
partly
partly,
flexible. Certain
yes.
provisions can be amended by a simple majority, and certain provisions require special majority, which is the rigid part. Okay, getting special majority is a difficult thing. Simple majority is a flexible thing because it is very easy to make an amendment through simple majority. Hi Vaishnavi, Sairam, AM, Nitish, and Dharani, and I can see a lot of students on YouTube as well, some of them. Okay, only this, this mock analysis will be on YouTube because we conducted this as an open book. Okay, which amongst the following were appointed to study the recommendations of Linguistic Provinces Commission? So, which committee was appointed to study the recommendations given by Linguistic Provinces Commission? Anybody in the class?
Maybe Dar
Maybe
Commission.
JVP committee.
It is JVP
JVP.
committee. Because what is a Dhar Commission? So Dar Commission is actually the Linguistic Provinces Commission, right? So Dar Commission is the other name of Linguistic Provinces Commission. It is known as Dar Commission because it is headed by Mr. S.K. Dhar. Okay, so Dhar Commission submitted its report in the year 1948. Okay, so the Dhar Commission was appointed to study whether we have to create states on linguistic basis, that is on language basis or not. And to study the recommendations of Dhar Commission, JVP committee was appointed in the year. It gave its report in the year 1949. So what is the full form of JVP? I explained it when we were talking about union and its territory. It is,
Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel.
yes, and Pattabi Sitaramaya. P is Pattabi Sitaramaya. Okay, so JVP committee is Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, and Pattabi Sitaramaya. They were formed to study, the recommendations of Dar Commission. Basel Committee has nothing to do with this one because Basel Committee is related to banking reforms. Okay, it is not related to Indian Constitution or polity. Whereas States Reorganization Commission is a very important commission. So States Reorganization Commission was formed in the year 1953 and it is headed by Justice Fazal Ali. So it is also known as Fazal Ali Commission. It submitted its report in the year 1955, and based on the report submitted by States Reorganization Commission, Parliament has enacted States Reorganization Act in the year 1956. So which amongst the following were appointed to study the recommendations of Linguistic Provinces Commission? The answer is JVP
JVP.
committee. So the other name of Linguistic Provinces Commission is Dar Commission. Is this clear?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, next. Hi everyone. I can see some comments there. Okay. The Constitution of India provides weak center, very strong center, a center which is weak in normal circumstances, but very strong during emergencies. None of these. What do you think is the answer?
Very strong in center.
A very strong center. That is why India is not a complete. Sorry, please mute your mic only if you are speaking. I don't know who is speaking because my focus is only on this screen. I'll not be opening any other screen. So very strong center. Why it is very strong center? India is a quasi federal state, not a complete federal state, whereas America is completely a federal state, so where there is a strict division of powers between center and state. But in India, states have powers but center has more powers. It is stronger than the states. Center is never weak, so C cannot be the answer. Okay, is this clear? I think yes. Right, next. Preamble to the Indian Constitution, whether what is the answer?
Is not a part of the constitution.
No, actually. So
It
preamble
indicates the
C.
indicates the source from which the constitution derives its authority. If you look at the preamble chapter, we discussed in the preamble lesson that preamble talks about certain things, right? So it says what is the date of adoption and what is the source of authority. What is the source of authority for the Constitution of India?
We the people of
We the
India.
people. Okay, so the people, preamble says people are the source from which the constitution is taking its power, from which the constitution is taking its authority. So preamble indicates the source from which the constitution derives its authority. Objectives to be achieved, not completely in preamble. Okay, objectives are there in DPSPs also and in various other provisions. It is not a part of the constitution. No, preamble is a part of the constitution according to the judgment delivered by the Supreme Court in Keshwananda Bharati versus State of Kerala in the year 1973. And then, is a source of authority of the Constitution? No, because the source of authority of the Constitution is the people of India and not the preamble. Is this clear for everyone? I think yes. Next, ignorance of law, a very important legal maxim that we have discussed. What is a maxim? What is the legal maxim that we have discussed?
Not
Ignorantia
executed.
juris non excusat, which means that ignorance of law is not an excuse. If you're ignoring the law, you cannot say that, sir, I don't know the law because I did not follow it. If you're not wearing helmet on the road and when traffic police, when he imposes a challan on you, you cannot say that, sir, I don't know that if I don't wear helmet, there is this much of fine. So ignorance of law cannot be an excuse. Next, liberty, equality, and fraternity is a slogan associated with. Sorry, if you're not speaking, please mute your mic, guys. If you're not speaking, please mute your mic. Liberty, equality, and fraternity. We discussed about sources, right? Very recently.
French.
It is from the French Constitution. It is inspired from the French Revolution. So, what is the right answer? C is the right answer. Next, the preamble is a part of the Constitution. Was held in which of the following cases?
B.
It was held in Keshwananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, 24th April 1973. So I think there is some wrong option given in the answer sheet, I guess, right? So wrong answer in the poll, in the mock test. So the correct answer is Keshwananda Bharati versus State of Kerala. In Berubari case, Inri Berubari, which is a presidential reference, in Berubari case, Supreme Court told that preamble is not a part of the constitution. Okay, but whereas in Keshwananda Bharati case, Supreme Court said that preamble is a part of the constitution. In Minerva Mills, we talked in Minerva Mills, Supreme Court told that harmony and balance between with what and what? Harmony and balance between fundamental rights and DPSP is a part of basic structure. In SR Bommai case, Supreme Court held that secularism is a part of basic structure. We have already discussed these things when we were talking about basic structure in the basic structure chapter. Next, union territory is administered by we did not discuss union territory chapter yet, but any guess, right?
It's a D. President
D.
through left hand
It is
government.
president. So a union territory is generally administered by president, but president will not directly administer the union territory. Instead, he appoints lieutenant governor or administrator who is appointed by president. In states, in union territories with legislative assemblies, for example, Delhi or Puducherry or Jammu and Kashmir. In these states, generally we have lieutenant governor, whereas in other states, like we have some other union territories, right, like Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. In all of these things, we have administrator and they are appointed by the president. Clear for everyone? Next, persona non grata. We have discussed multiple times and it's a very important one.
An unwelcome person.
Unwelcome
An
person.
unwelcome person. Persona means person. Non is not. Grata is greeting someone or welcoming someone. An unacceptable person or an unwelcome person is known as persona non grata. Next question. Right to constitutional remedies comes under.
Fundamental right.
It is a fundamental right. So, right to constitutional remedies is under Article 32 of the Indian Constitution. If your fundamental rights are violated, you can approach the court for the enforcement of your fundamental rights, and this right in itself is a fundamental right under part 3. So what are fundamental rights? Fundamental rights are those rights which are mentioned in part 3 of the Indian Constitution. What are legal rights? What are legal rights? Legal rights are those rights which are given by ordinary law, not by the Constitution. For example, right to vote is a legal right. It is not a fundamental right, because right to vote comes from the Representation of People's Act. Right to information, RTI, is again a legal right because it is not mentioned in the Constitution, and it comes from the Right to Information Act 2005. Okay. Whereas constitutional rights are those rights which are mentioned in the Constitution except in part 3, because even fundamental rights are constitutional rights, but other than those rights we generally consider them as constitutional rights. For example, right to property, it is a constitutional right and it is also a legal right, because only when a law is enforced this particular article can be enforced. And yeah, natural right is a right. Natural rights are nowhere mentioned. They are not mentioned anywhere, but they are the basic rights which are available to a person. It might be like the right to breathe fresh air, or the right to have proper food and shelter, and all of these things are generally natural rights. They are not mentioned anywhere. Clear? Hey Babu Ram, welcome to the session. How are you? Next, right to property. Next, the supplementary question. Right to property was removed as a fundamental right by which amendment?
44.
By 44th Amendment Act, which was enacted in the year 1978. Okay, so it was removed as a fundamental right and it is placed as a constitutional right or a legal right under Article 300 capital A, which is in Part 20 of the Constitution. Okay, next. Which of the following directive principles is based on Gandhian ideology? In the DPSP chapter, we discussed this in a great
Promotion
detail.
of cottage
Promotion
industries.
of
Promotion of cottage industries.
Yeah, so promotion of cottage industries under Article 43. Okay, so it is a Gandhian DPSP. Equal pay for equal right. It is which principle? It is a socialist
Socialist
DPSP,
principle.
which is there under Article 39. Uniform Civil Code is a liberal intellectual principle, which is there under Article 44. Separation of judiciary from executive is again a liberal intellectual principle, which is there under Article 50 of the Indian Constitution. We have discussed all these articles in our previous classes. So if you did not watch them, please go through the recordings which are available on our portal. Next. Any dispute regarding the violation of fundamental rights can be presented. What is the answer? Very quickly.
Either in Supreme Court or in
High Court and Supreme Court.
Either in the Supreme Court or in the High Court, because under Article 32 you can directly move the Supreme Court. Doesn't mean that you cannot go to the High Court, right? So you can approach either in Supreme Court. Supreme Court lo kavalante Supreme Court lo file cheyochu, leda High Court lo kuda cheyochu. You can do it in any court. Okay. Next, PIL stands for
Public
Public
interest.
interest litigation. We are going to discuss about public interest litigation in the upcoming chapters. So public interest litigation is again a judiciary evolved doctrine and it is not mentioned in the original Constitution. Next, who is given an exception to equality before law? I discussed this when we were talking about article.
Both President and Governor.
So both President and Governor. We discussed about Article 361 when we were talking about Article 14, if you remember. So under Article 361, no civil or criminal proceedings can be initiated against both President and also Governor when they are in office. Next, President of India is elected by which system? President of India
Option
is
A.
elected by proportional representation by single transferable vote. So what is this single transferable vote? Anybody in the class? I have already explained them. So proportional representation by single transferable vote means that you have to cast your preference to every candidate. So generally, what is the general election system? In general election system, which type of ballot do we follow? It is FPTP. Okay, or first